Inside the Illini, Big Ten College Football is brought to you by your local Anheuser-Busch distributors. Ray Eldridge Jewelry, elegance without the attitude. Peoria and Decatur. Physician's Choice Wellness, give away your weight today. And Buffalo Wild Wings, Mattoon, Champaign, Savoy.
Welcome to Inside the Illini, Big Ten College Football, the show that each week will do just that. We'll take you inside the games, the practices, and the interview rooms as we get ready for this week's Fighting Illini game. Hi there, folks. I'm Matt Lovelace. We're here at Buffalo Wild Wings in Savoy, as we are every week, getting ready to dissect the upcoming game. This week, it's the Louisiana Tech Bulldogs coming to Memorial Stadium for a night game. And of course, as always, we've compiled some of the greatest minds in Illinois football coverage. We have Steve Kelly with WDWS Radio, Brian Barnhart, the voice of the Illini, and back from the DL, we'd love to have him, Bob Osmussen, the Illinois beat writer for the Champaign News-Gazette, talking about the big topics in college football. Guys?
Well, thanks, Matt, and welcome, everybody. Interesting week once again in the Big Ten. The Big Ten did a little bit better this week, guys. They did the 6-6 start last week, but 10-2, I believe, overall, with a couple of those losses late. Bob, good to see you back again.
Thank you very much.
Give us your thoughts on the Big Ten so far.
Well, obviously, the previous week was a nightmare. One of the worst weeks in the history of the conference. So they had to bounce. They couldn't go anywhere but up, in my opinion. But yeah, there were some good wins, some wins that you would have expected. Obviously, Illinois, Charleston Southern, that game couldn't be close, and it wasn't close. And give Illinois a lot of credit for bouncing back from really one of the worst performances I've seen in decades, and coming back, and Riley O'Toole playing well. But I think overall the Big Ten had a little bit of a bounce back week. Ohio State now looks like a team that I could see competing at a high level nationally. Of course, it doesn't no good because they can't play in the Rose Bowl, they can't play the bowl game, or even in a Big Ten title game.
And a lot of us guys that were Big Ten fans were kind of pinning our hopes on Michigan State, and then they struggled.
Right.
Their receivers dropped a lot of passes. Maxwell is not Cousins, obviously, yet, and that was kind of our hope for maybe a potential national championship contender, and they couldn't do much against Notre Dame, so that was disappointing too.
Notre Dame's heading to the ACC, but they're tearing up the Big Ten right now, and they might do it again this week.
Well, yeah, they've got a big game, and go back to Michigan State, I don't think anybody really thought they were a national title contender, but the fact that the Big Ten is out, I mean, I guess you could say Minnesota and Northwestern still have a chance, but that's not realistic. The powers in the conference are out. They don't have a chance to win a national title. That's very disappointing for the league, very disappointing for Jim Delaney, but I saw he said, you know, things happen. We get a rotation. The Big Ten will be back up. There's no question about it. If you look at all the power coaches in the conference now, with Urban Meyer, and there's just great coaches across the board, I do think the league will bounce back, and we won't be talking about the SEC all the time.
Yeah.
On the national scene, Southern Cal goes out to Stanford and gets beat, a game that people were paying particular attention to. I know you picked it the wrong way.
Yeah, I
that's
did.
Okay.
Yeah, cost me a game in the standings, as it turns out. But yeah, Stanford has got a lot of leftover talent from. Obviously, Andrew Luck is no longer there now with the Colts, but they can still run the football really well.
Time to give David Shaw some credit too. He took over a tough situation for Jim Harbaugh, has done a fantastic job. And that game, I will say that game stunned me. I had Southern Cal number 2 in the country. I didn't see them losing. I thought they were going to run the table and play the SEC for the title. Now they're not.
One other thing, too, is that anytime Notre Dame wins a game or two, boy, they shoot up in the rankings, don't they? They jump 8, 10 spots at a time.
Yeah,
so.
absolutely.
Well, we're off and rolling on this edition of the show. We've got plenty more to talk about in the Big Ten and nationally as well. Right now, we'll throw it back to you, Matt.
Hey, thanks a lot, Steve. You guys talked about that bounce-back game last week. I believe the phrase is just what the doctor ordered. A week after getting basically dominated in all phases of the game, the Illini won a game they should have won. We'll break down Illinois, Charleston Southern next on Inside the Illini. Welcome back to Inside the Illini, Big Ten College Football here at Buffalo Wild Wings in Savoy. Now we want to thank one of our sponsors, our local Anheuser-Busch distributor, Aguadio & Sons Distributing this week. They're helping us send a fan to each Illini home game, giving us 2 tickets. Now, in order to win, you have to be here for our show's taping at Buffalo Wild Wings in Savoy. We tape noon on Wednesdays. Come in at 11 o'clock from 11 to 12:45. We accept some applications for those tickets. We'll announce a winner later in the show. Now, entering a game against an FCS opponent, Coach Tim Beckman said he'd never had a team so injury depleted. Their starting quarterback was out. Their center was out. Their 100-yard rusher from the week before was out. But what we got a chance to see was a bunch of young players step up and have a pretty big day against Charleston Southern.
Our Central Illinois Buick dealers look in the rear view as the Illini trying to bounce back from a game that deflated their defense the week before. And the first thing we got was a defensive highlight. Mason Monheim, his first career start, comes up with the pick. He was down to the Charleston Southern 7.
He made a lot of big plays today, so it was really great to see him go out there, and I think that's definitely going to give him more confidence.
2 plays later, Riley O'Toole in at QB, a high arc coming down to Ryan Langford. After a failed 2-point attempt, it was 6-0 Illini. Next drive, still in the first, Langford's wide open, an easy score from 5 yards out, 13-0, 12 minutes in.
It wasn't a Riley to Ryan thing, it was just the play was designed to go to me on certain times, and that's what happened.
Now, it wasn't always clean in the first half. With a chance to go up 3 scores, O'Toole lobbing it, but CSU's Charles James there for the pick. O'Toole had been 11 for 11 in the game before that interception.
Should have just made a slide and get the ball out to Darius a little bit deeper in the corner. So obviously you can get better.
But the defense held, and in the final few minutes of the half, check out this play. True freshman Damie Ayula in a pile of defenders, but watch the right side of your screen. He pops out, and no one there to get him. A 28-yard score. That was on a 4th down and made it 20-0 at halftime.
He's not a quitter. He got hit by a couple guys, kept his feet moving, got that first down, and then finished it up.
Fresh out of the break, O'Toole airing it out again. This time Spencer Harris has a step. He's in for the 24-yard score. That made it 27-0. Late, it's 37-0, and this one just icing on the cake. O'Toole dumping off to Donovan Young, who steamrolls a defender and finishes off the run. A 44-0 win for the Illini.
I credit those guys that have been playing in years past to really step and gather this team together defensively and get them heading in the right direction.
O'Toole set an Illinois record, completing almost 84% of his passes. He tossed for 333 yards and 5 touchdowns in a team effort.
Riley had great protection. Riley had receivers that were getting open.
It's easy when the receiver's open. I just gotta put it on him, and I had great time today.
And that defense pitching a shutout, first time for an Illinois team in 5 years.
It was great. That was something we talked about all week. And just go out there and do the things that we do best, our base fundamentals. Play hard, and we achieved that today.
Well, the Illini got off the plane from Tempe after that loss at Arizona State, came back home and had the FCS game against Charleston Southern. And Bob, it was one of those games where you're going into it, you think, let's feel good about ourselves again if you're Illinois. And after not feeling so good after the Arizona State game, they came out of this game with Charleston Southern healthy, and they do feel good about themselves.
If you're ever going to play a team injury depleted, make sure it's an FCS team that hasn't won a game forever, and that's Charleston Southern. And clearly they were a team meant to come in and get beat, get a nice paycheck, which is nice for them, and I think that Illinois did exactly what they had to do. I think the shutout is a confidence booster for the defense. I think Riley O'Toole's performance on offense was really good because he did not play very well in Arizona State. He knows it, and the kids knew it. But when you get him playing like he did on Saturday, it's something as you go forward. Should Nathan not be ready this week or down the road, now the guys know, hey, Riley will get us in the end zone.
One thing you could see with Riley O'Toole, and you saw this in high school when he was playing at Wheaton, Steve, is how accurate he is. Set an Illini record for accuracy in a ballgame.
Yeah, he put up 333 yards through the air, 5 touchdowns. It's been a long time since, well, back to Juice Williams, since somebody threw 5 touchdown passes in a game. I was scrambling looking for the next record. When was the last time somebody threw 6? Of course, that was Dave Wilson back in 1980. So really a game statistically that'll show up in the record books, and had to do a lot, I think, Bob, for Riley O'Toole's confidence.
Absolutely, and that's what you have to do in these kind of games. You have to take the FCS games and use them to your advantage for down the road. So you get guys out there like a Mason Monheim, who really hadn't played much, get him out there. He gets an interception, a critical interception at the start of the game, and he's rolling. Riley's rolling. Ryan Langford's confidence improves. Across the board, guys were getting in the game and playing well, and I thought that was very impressive, very important. And if you look at Illinois' history, against FCS schools, they've been very good. They've done exactly what you have to. They've maybe been scared once or twice. Southern Illinois game several years ago, got down 21-0, but they roared back and Howard ran for 8 touchdowns. So those are the kind of things you have to do in these games. Get those points, play well, and get all your guys out in the field.
And with all the injuries the Illini have had, obviously, as these guys mentioned, the young guys have to step up and play. And we've seen, I know that Coach Beckman's looking for a couple of home run hitters at receiver, and we'll see how Justin Hardy develops, but he certainly had a huge game, nearly 100 yards.
Oh, I thought he looked very good. And think about it, this guy came in as possibly a defensive back. Right. And here he is, they threw him out at receiver at Camp Rantoul, the guy's rolling, so that's what you need to do. And I think we're going to find out that Tim Beckman is pretty good at taking a kid who might look at one position, maybe he looks like a tight end, and plugs him in at fullback or plugs him in at linebacker. I think he's pretty good at that, and I think that's an important attribute for a coach now, the way college football's played.
Yeah, and the other key stat in the ball game, real quick, was Illinois' defense, the shutout, first one since Western Illinois in 2007. But even more important, 0 for 13 was Charleston Southern on third down. Didn't let them have even a sniff. One big play in the ball game, basically.
Yeah, again, give the defense credit.
And back to the offense, Wednesday is the last day that the coach is available to talk to anybody about anything. And I talked to him Wednesday. He said at that time that Nathan Shieldhouse was about, quote, about 100%. So I expect we see Nathan Shieldhouse tonight.
Well, we'll see what happens with it as Illinois plays under the lights coming up this evening at Memorial Stadium. Let's go back to Matt.
Thank you, Brian. And like you mentioned, Steve, Nathan Shieldhouse almost 100%. We'll talk a little bit about it later in the show, but Coach Beckman seemed pretty confident during that Wednesday interview. We'll talk about that later. Well, coming up, talk about the Leaders Division in the Big Ten as the conference's national perception takes another hit this week. We'll talk about it next on Inside the Illini, Big Ten College Football.
The Inside the Illini Weekly MVP is brought to you by Shields, Gear, Passion, Sports. We'll pick the top Illinois player from each week's game. This week, it's sophomore quarterback Riley O'Toole, his second straight start in place of injured Nathan Shieldhouse. Now, it wasn't just O'Toole's best career start, which it was by a long shot. It's up there with the best starts in Illinois football history. O'Toole broke an Illinois record for single-game completion percentage, connecting on 84% of his 31 passes. He also threw 5 touchdowns, spreading them around to 4 different receivers.
Welcome back to Inside the Illini here at Buffalo Wild Wings in Savoy. Now, up until last week, just about everybody, maybe with the exception of Ohio State, had shown some vulnerabilities in the Leaders Division. Now add the Buckeyes to the list. Eric Harrell takes a look at the highlights from last week in the Leaders.
Penn State looking for that elusive first win of the season against Navy. Matt McGloin. Play action, rolls right, he's got some rushers in his face, gets the pass off, corner of the end zone, great catch by Jesse James. Penn State up early. More McGloin, pumps right, throws left, finds Allen Robinson open, works it to the middle of the field, nothing but end zone in front of him. Another touchdown by Penn State, and Penn State would go on to roll in this game 34-7 over Navy. Matt McGloin threw 4 touchdowns on the way to the first win of the Bill O'Brien era at Penn State. One of the best matchups of the day, number 12, Ohio State, hosting Cal. First quarter, Braxton Miller takes the snap, eludes everybody on this defense, runs down the sideline. Ohio State up by 6. One good run deserves another. This one, Cal's Brendan Bigelow runs left, a host of defenders around him, but he keeps his balance, and it's off to the races along the sideline. That would be an 81-yard touchdown run that would pull Cal to within 1 score. It would be knotted up at 28 in the fourth quarter, but Braxton Miller would roll right, launches off a pass, and coverages don't get any more busted than that. Devin Smith with the reception, 72-yard touchdown. Buckeyes take the lead 35-28, and that would be the difference in this one. Ohio State wins 35-28. Rounding out the Leaders Division, a missed field goal with seconds remaining on the clock helps Wisconsin improve to 2-1 over Utah State. They win 16-14. Elsewhere, Indiana drops their first game of the year against Ball State. They lose 41-39. And finally, Purdue. They hammer Eastern Michigan 54-16. They improve to 2-1 on the season. Guys, back to you in Savoy.
Welcome back, everybody. As we look at the Leaders Division, 2 teams not playing. They have the day off. Indiana and Purdue have the bye this week, so they're not in action. But Ohio State, one of the first teams to get underway, they take on UAB in a game they should win. Maybe the best game on the schedule involving Leaders Division might be the Temple at Penn State game, Bob.
Yeah, and I think Penn State had a nice bounce back last week, which they really needed. Bill O'Brien, I think they were starting to feel some of the heat there. I mean, nobody's he's set there for 8 years, but they still need to have some signs of success. As well as they played last week, I think that's a real good deal for them. And you are right, that is a good game. Temple has shown over the years they have the potential to at least scare Penn State or even beat them, and I think this will be a close game.
Yeah, and they're going to be honoring Penn State, well, the 82 national champions during the course of that game. And, yeah, they barely beat Temple last year. And, you know, Ohio State, Alabama, Birmingham, they should be fine in that ball game. They've been very impressive. Indiana's the team I'm interested to see how they bounce back. Now, they have a bye week this week, but they play in a couple of weeks. But to have that lead just about wrapped up, they've up to their third quarterback now, or down to their third quarterback. Right. But they seem to be moving the ball very well, but they lost to Ball State again.
Yeah, don't discount Ball State. Pete Lembo's in there in his second year and got him to 500 a year ago. He's going to try to get him in a bowl game this year, and they really look at that game as that's their Super Bowl. They get to play Indiana. They want to beat Indiana, and they've obviously shown they can do it. Ohio State, they are 3-0. They had some glitches in that game against Cal. Yeah, and Cal is not a great team. Cal had lost at home to Nevada. They are not a fantastic team. So I think Ohio State, even though we think they're very good, they've still got some issues too.
I would guess that was the type of game that Urban Meyer, even though he'd rather would have had a blown out, I'm sure he's looking at that as a teaching tool for the games ahead.
Oh, absolutely. And Wisconsin against Utah State last week, Utah State is much better than people believe. They'd beaten Utah. Gary Anderson's done a really good job there. So I don't think you should read some into that, because still Wisconsin should be able to beat Utah State by 2 touchdowns, and they beat them by 2 points, and that's problematic.
And we're lucky to do that.
And we're lucky to do that. And you're right, missed field goal at the end. Brett Bielema clearly has some issues.
Well, and last year they had Russell Wilson, who was no doubt the quarterback, and obviously he's doing well at the next level. But you know, Danny O'Brien benched. He had a second quarter fumble. They take him out. You know, the Wisconsin offense, which has been so good the last couple of years, just hasn't been there, and they've struggled to win these games.
I think we've said all along that the Legends division is the tougher of the 2 divisions, and so far it's playing out that way.
No question.
And that's going to take a look at the leaders. We'll take a look at the aforementioned Legends division coming up. But first, it's back to you, Matt.
Thanks, Steve. That Legends chat coming up next. And, of course, the big matchup of the week in the Big Ten and that independent Notre Dame, Michigan State. Not quite the exciting football game we're becoming accustomed to over there. We'll tackle that next on Inside the Illini Big Ten College Football here at Buffalo Wild Wings.
The Inside the Illini Play of the Week is brought to you by your local Anheuser-Busch distributor, Aguadio & Sons Distributing. It's the top play from last week's Illini game, and there were many to choose from, even from players who'd never started before, but this one topped them all, a key second half play. The Illini up 13 on 4th down. Freshman Dami Ayula gets the handoff. Looks like the run's over, but he pops out of a pile. Nothing ahead of him but an orange end zone. It put the Illini up 3 scores and gave them momentum they never gave away. Dami Ayula with our play of the week.
Welcome back to Buffalo Wild Wings here in Savoy for Inside the Illini Big Ten College Football. Now, that Michigan State-Notre Dame game didn't quite have the fourth quarter fireworks that we've become used to in that matchup, but still a game that showed a lot about the Big Ten. And now the only program, and we can talk about this, that could be considered on the rise is Northwestern. We'll talk about it coming up. But first, Eric Harrell has the highlights from last week.
Legends Division, number 17, Michigan, hosting Massachusetts. First quarter, no score. Denard Robinson throws it over the middle to Devin Funches, and he does the rest. Funches, touchdown. Michigan up by 7. Later, second quarter, Michigan up 28-10. Denard Robinson looking downfield. He doesn't like what he sees, rolls right, still looking, tucks it, works back to the middle of the field, and he would break this one loose all the way to the house. 6 points for Michigan. They go up 35-10. And they would demolish Massachusetts 63-13. Number 10, Michigan State hosting number 20, Notre Dame. First quarter, Everett Golson rolls right, escapes the rusher, looks downfield, throws it towards the end zone, jump ball situation, defenders all around. He makes the catch. An incredible catch by John Goodman in the end zone. Notre Dame up by 7 early. Second quarter, same score, Everett Golson flushed out of the pocket by the rush, but he's just going to take it into the end zone himself. 14-0 Notre Dame, and they would go on to defeat Michigan State 20-3.
Okay, I'm okay. I'm fine. I'm just not feeling real good.
That was Bo Pelini, Nebraska head coach. He left the game at halftime, said he wasn't feeling very well. Nebraska says he's doing fine, and they were doing fine on Saturday as well, as Amani Cross runs it up the gut, 35-13 Nebraska, and they would go on to defeat Arkansas State. 42-13, they improved to 2-1. Elsewhere in the Legends Division, Iowa defeats Northern Iowa 27-16. Minnesota remains undefeated. They take out Western Michigan 28-23. And Northwestern, they pick up their third win of the year, defeating Boston College 22-13. Now, back to you guys in Savoy.
Well, last week it was Michigan State out of the Legends Division taking on Notre Dame. Did not have a whole lot of luck, but this week it is Michigan, Steve, and Michigan and Notre Dame. They've played some thrillers the last 3 years. I think all 3 games decided in the last 30 seconds.
Yeah, they have, and we'll have a pick on this game coming up a little bit later. I'm not going to tip it off yet because that's the game that I selected to pick. It should be a good football game, and I think everybody else in the Legends Division will win easily. Later today and tonight, Michigan might have the toughest test.
Michigan already playing Alabama, Bob. Now they play Notre Dame.
Yes, they did play Alabama. They did get beat. They got crushed, and I heard about it from everybody in Alabama.
I bet.
This is a game for Michigan to get a little bit of revenge. Obviously, Notre Dame is not Alabama, but they are definitely playing at a higher level. Brian Kelly's got that thing going. He's got them playing very steady defense. If you hold Michigan State to 3 points, you're doing something right. But I think this is a game where Robinson, as he showed last year, can give Notre Dame quite a bit of fits. And I wouldn't be at all surprised. I don't know who you're going to pick, Steve, but I wouldn't be at all surprised if the Wolverines go into South Bend and win that game. Notre Dame sometimes gets up to this level where they're, you're looking at them, they're 11, 12, looks like, wow, they're back. And then, boom, something happens. And if you look at their schedule, they get by this game, they got Stanford and they got Southern Cal. And we could be looking at a 12-0 Notre Dame team. So this is a critical game for them.
Yep, absolutely. And you mentioned Denard Robinson, Michigan with nearly 1,000 yards of offense the last couple of years against Notre Dame. Michigan State should get back on track, you would think, against Eastern Michigan. Marquise Gray out, though, for Minnesota, had that ankle injury. They thought at first he might have broken his leg, but that's a loss. I know you're a big fan of Jerry Kill, but that's a big loss for them.
Huge loss, and they need him. They got by, but they're going to have to have him back. The other thing we didn't talk about, Bo Pelini. He got taken to the hospital last week in the middle of the game at halftime, said everything's all right, he all checked out, but I think people will be watching that story very closely because you lose a leader of a program like that, makes it very difficult to move on. They got an easy game this week, but then they get in the heart of their schedule. They're going to play Wisconsin and Ohio State back-to-back, so they've really got to have their coach there.
Yep, Iowa plays Central Michigan, and Steve, Northwestern off to a 3-0 start. They haven't been great. They almost blew a big lead at Syracuse, but they are 3-0.
They are 3-0. They played some BCS teams. They claim to be one of the few teams in the Big Ten, if not the only, to play all BCS teams in the preseason. What I'm looking forward to is next week when we start the Big Ten, and we'll get that conversation going a little bit later on. But I don't know how good Northwestern is. I guess we'll find out soon enough.
I put them in my top 25 this week at 25 because they beat 3 BCS teams. Not good BCS teams, but BCS teams. South Dakota this week. I think Pat Fitzgerald and the guys ought to get by that one. But if you look at their schedule, they could easily start 7-8-0, and then you're really talking about maybe moving way up that bowl chart.
Yeah, and if Nebraska loses to Idaho State, then the Big Ten really has problems. But
then it'd be time to start over.
I think so.
Join the Missouri Valley.
That's right. All right, let's go back to Matt for more.
Well, a big week 2 in the NFL. We'll check in on what Illinois alums were doing on Thursday, Sunday, and Monday in the NFL. Coming up next on Inside the Illini, Big Ten College Football.
Our Gem of the Week is brought to you by Ray Eldridge Jewelry, elegance without the attitude, Peoria and Decatur. We picked this gem from an early Week 4 game, Kent State at Buffalo. Last play of the first half, Buffalo goes for the Hail Mary. Alex Zordich fires towards 3 UB receivers at the goal line. Alex Nutz somehow comes away with it. And a side note, Nutz leads the FBS with 6 touchdowns on the season, that one from 46 yards out.
Welcome back to Inside the Illini here at Buffalo Wild Wings in Savoy. Now time to take a look at what some Illinois alums are doing on Sunday afternoons in the NFL. Now some are filling up the stat sheets, others are still sitting on the sidelines waiting for a chance to play due to some injuries. Our Noah Newman takes a look at our newest installment of Illini and the Pros.
Hey, good morning, Matt. Although he hasn't found the end zone yet, Brandon Lloyd's actually off to a pretty nice start with his new team. Through 2 games, the former Illini leads the Patriots with 13 catches and 129 yards. but he could see his opportunities decrease. The team picked up veterans Deion Branch and Kellen Winslow this week to help Tom Brady in the passing game after scoring only 18 points in a loss to the Cardinals. Lloyd and company will have their hands full with a tough Ravens defense on Sunday.
We got to try to find ways to execute better and score more points. And we're playing a very good team that challenges us in all three phases. One of the best teams in the league over a long period of time. So it'll be a fun game for the players. Looking forward to it.
Whitney Merciless, meanwhile, recorded his first career tackle in his team's win over Jacksonville last week. It's the only tackle he's had through 2 games. He'll look to get his first sack Sunday when the Texans take on Peyton Manning and the Denver Broncos. A couple other noteworthy performances by former Illini last week. Tavon Wilson recorded his first career fumble recovery, and Pierre Thomas had a good game for the Saints, rumbling for 110 yards on only 9 carries. He's now the team's leading rusher. That's a look at this week's Illini in the pros. We'll send it back to you guys in Savoy.
Well, one of the stories, at least of local interest in the NFL as it regards to former Illini, is that former Illinois running back Mikel LaShore is eligible to play this week. He had to sit out the first 2 games of the season for the Detroit Lions. I'm anxious to see how he does, Rob.
Well, we've never seen him play. He's played in exhibition games, but the guy missed all of last season because of the injury, and obviously 2 games this year for off-the-field activities that hopefully he doesn't participate in again. But he is a guy that they've been counting on to be a player for them. And they want to go to the playoffs, and they want him to be an important part of that. I think he's got 1,000-yard back in him at some point in his career, maybe not first year. It's tough to get going, but I think just get him out there, get him 8 or 9 carries, let him run to the ball and show you what he can do, because we know he's a talented kid.
When you think about it, I mean, he didn't even he got hurt in the second day of camp or something last year.
Right.
Never really even got off the mat, and then, of course, was missing the first 2 games this year. So, we all know what he can do. I'd like to see it at the next level, and he's going to earn his money now. He's been making some, but now he gets to play.
Kind of carrying along that running back legacy, the Pierre Thomas, Rashard Mendenhall into Mikel LaShore, we hope, carrying that torch.
Yeah, Pierre Thomas just had a great game. Went over 100 yards on a few carries, so give him credit. And he's a guy, if you think back, who thought he was going to be a long-time NFL player, win a Super Bowl? You just don't know, but you hope Mikel gets that chance.
Aurelius Ben, also a pretty good game last week for Tampa Bay. A lot of guys, 22 guys total on rosters or practice squads from Illinois in the NFL.
I just wonder how many schools have more than that. I mean, I know the Alabamas and those schools produce a lot, but 22 is a lot in the NFL from a Big Ten university like Illinois.
I like seeing the rookies like Tavon Wilson, got a fumble recovery. Great for him.
Dave Deal for the Giants got hurt last week, a knee. We'll keep an eye on that. His teammate, Steve Weatherford, certainly a key guy, one of the top punters in the NFL. That's a look at some of the former Illini in the NFL. We'll throw it back to you, Matt.
Well, coming up next, a 2-overtime thriller in Normal. Eastern Illinois taking on Illinois State. We go inside the Panthers next on Inside the Illini, Big Ten College Football. Welcome back to Inside the Illini, Big Ten College Football. We're here at Buffalo Wild Wings in Savoy. Now going inside the Panthers. Eastern Illinois was in Normal, taking on the ISU Redbirds in what turned out to be quite a contest last week. We go inside the Panthers with Eastern Illinois University.
Eastern Illinois and Illinois State played 100 times prior to last Saturday's clash in Normal. The 101st matchup between the Panthers and the Redbirds may have had the most drama. ISU got on the board first, late in the first quarter on a pick 6 of Jimmy Garoppolo. The Panthers tied the game just before the end of the quarter with the first of 3 touchdowns for Taylor Duncan. Duncan powered his way to pay dirt in the middle of the second quarter to give EIU a 14-7 lead. ISU tied the game on the first of 5 touchdown passes for Matt Brown. The first half scoring was kept off by a career-long field goal by Panther place kicker Cameron Barra from 44 yards, 17-14 Panthers at the end of the half. EIU extended their lead in the third quarter on a touchdown pass from Garoppolo to Eric Laura. However, the Redbirds found the end zone twice to end the third quarter on top, 28-24. Eric Laura started off the fourth quarter with another touchdown reception, and then Jake Walker bruised his way for another score, and EIU led 38-28 with 9 minutes left in the fourth. The Redbirds found the end zone twice in the final 5 minutes of the quarter to retake the lead 41-38. Jimmy Garoppolo led EIU down the field in the final seconds of the quarter, and Cameron Barra hit another field goal at the buzzer. The 20-yarder sends the game to overtime. The Redbirds scored a touchdown to open the first overtime. The Panthers forced a second overtime on Taylor Duncan's third score of the day. In the second OT, the Panthers offense came up short, and OBC Special Teams Player of the Week, Cameron Barra, connected on a 40-yard field goal. ISU capitalized on their offensive possession in the second OT.
We're disappointed we didn't get 7. I mean, we had a wide receiver opened, and he gets tackled on the 3-yard line. We really thought we were going to go down and score a touchdown and win the game. And I really feel bad. I really felt bad. We probably should have went for 2. That's my fault. Probably should have went for 2 after the first one just ended the game. You know, that's how good I felt about what we were doing on offense. So I'll take the blame for that.
Despite the heartbreaking loss to the Redbirds, EIU head coach Dino Babers likes where the team is going into the conference opener against Murray State.
We're a really good offense. We special teams, I thought, bounced back from the Western Michigan game. I feel that we had some opportunities to make some plays out there, and we didn't. We battled with a 15th ranked team in the country with 19 BCS transfers, where we only have 2. And I thought they fought well for the state, Central State of Illinois, and it's disappointing that they lost.
2 up-tempo offenses. It's going to be fun, and our defense is going to have to come up big for us. What I think it's going to come down to, 2 offensive, yeah, they're going to be highlighted by like the media and whatnot, but I think at the end it's going to come down to defense, to what our defense is going to take.
The Panthers and Racers' up-tempo offenses will duel under the lights at O'Brien Field in Charleston. Kickoff is set for 6:30 p.m. on Saturday night. Reporting on the Eastern Illinois Panthers for Inside the Illini, I'm Ryan Snodgrass of WEIU TV.
Thanks to EIU for that. Up next, we'll delve into our picks segment. Some big Week 4 matchups. We'll put our expert hats on. Plus, we're giving away a $25 Buffalo Wild Wings gift card as we go to Facebook to answer your questions about Illini football. That's next on Inside the Illini Big Ten College Football. Hey, welcome back to Inside the Illini Big Ten College Football. Time to make our picks. Each week we'll try to do some predictions for the big week's matchups, and now each week we'll tally those up and look at the standings. Now this is our Healthy Choice Pick'em, brought to you by Physicians Choice Wellness. Give away your weight today. At the end of the season, we'll get $1,500 to donate to a charity of our choice. Now let's take a quick look at the standings here. I got my first pick of the season wrong. Michigan State didn't beat Notre Dame, did they? I didn't see how that. I'm just kidding.
Barely scored.
Close. Yeah, there you go. Now, Steve picked Florida over Tennessee, got that one. Lauren got Penn State correct, which is now Bob's standings. So, Bob, you are 2-1. You inherited a pretty good record. Brian, the lone 1-2. USC lost to Stanford. That was a great game, a good pick. We try to pick the interesting games. We want to pick the close ones, and we hope they finish well. So, I'll pick first, and I'm picking Pac-12 this time. Utah versus Arizona State, a big Pac-12 South game. And I think after that USC loss, some of these other teams, UCLA, Arizona State, and Utah, really see an opening in the South and see a little vulnerability there. So this is a big game. Arizona State, we saw what they did against Illinois, and actually had a pretty decent showing against Missouri this last week. Utah had that win over BYU, but I think we saw BYU may not be a top 25 team quite yet. An interesting ending to that game as well, but I think Arizona State's going to hold at home and beat Utah.
Okay, I'm going to go with Michigan at Indiana. I got a question for you, football fans in Central Illinois. Who do you root for in that game? Nobody likes either one of them. I have to pick somebody because they both can't lose. I'm going to go with Notre Dame getting Michigan. I know that, Bob, you might disagree with that, but I've got Notre Dame at home against Michigan.
Well, looking at it for me, I think, I was looking at Kansas State, Oklahoma. Kansas State, now under Bill Snyder, back in the rankings, and a formidable foe. They smashed Miami of Florida earlier this year, struggled a bit against North Texas last week, rushing the football for about 250 yards a game. So they've done really well. The Sooners are 2-0. They've had a bye week. They've rolled to a couple of wins. did play UTEP early this year, who plays Wisconsin this week. So certainly they've had 2 good wins, but the Sooners have won 8 of 9 in this series. They've won 42 of the last 43 at home, and so I'll take the Sooners to beat Kansas State.
You just don't like that Bill Snyder's old. That's okay. I'm going to take Florida State-Clemson game. It's a tough one. Clemson's very talented offensively. Sammy Watkins is playing like a maniac. But Florida State at home, and there's just so many things going for them right now. I think they're playing at a high level. I like Burt Reynolds went there. That's good. Bobby Bowden coached there. That's good. So I'm going to go with the Seminoles in a close game against Clemson.
Tough to pick against the Seminoles or the Sooners at home, I think so, any time to do. Well, hey, next up, our Facebook segment. This is where we want you to log on to our Inside the Illini Facebook page, like it, ask us a question, and during this segment, we pick yours, we put it on the air. You win a $25 Buffalo Wild Wings gift card. Not a bad deal. You could win the gift card, come here, then you can win tickets to the Illini game. Not a bad deal for lunch on Wednesday. So this question this week is from Michael Downey. He asked, what's the most difficult aspect of developing an offensive game plan for an opponent when it's not known who your starting quarterback will be until only a day or so before the game? A great question, and one that the Illini have kind of had to deal with for the last couple of weeks. Steve, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think the coaches will tell you it's the system, not the individual, that gets whoever the individual is ready for the ball game. I think that's true to an extent, but Riley O'Toole's a little bit different than Nathan Shieldhouse. I'm guessing the plays are a little bit tailored towards his strengths as opposed to having Nathan in there with the full playbook. But I think the system is there, and those guys adapt to it.
Well, coaches say all the time, you never have enough running backs, you never have enough quarterbacks. I mean, look at Indiana, they're down to their 3rd one already, but they run the same system. So as you prepare for during the week, you've got similar type athletes, you know, it's easier to make that transition. But obviously, Riley O'Toole, as Steve mentioned, a little bit different quarterback, you know, very accurate arm, and I think they used some plays last week that kind of benefited him and gave him a chance to succeed, which he took advantage of the opportunity.
Right. And the playbook, there's thousands of plays. They pare it down each week to specific plays, and the coaches will have to adapt in this situation. So if you don't have a quarterback, you realize that and you make a move.
All right. Well, thanks a lot, Michael. You are a winner of our $25 Buffalo Wild Wings gift card. We'll get a hold of you on Facebook. Keep your questions coming. The rest of you folks, we'll try to answer one next week as we get ready for Big Ten play. Hey, well, coming up next, the segment we like getting to each week. Finally get to talk a little bit of Louisiana Tech, and a lot to talk about with this team offensively. A very talented team, and the Illini know that defense is going to have to be ready. Can't have a repeat of Arizona State. That's coming up next on Inside the Illini, Big Ten College Football. Hey, welcome back for the final segment of Inside the Illini Big Ten College Football. Time to talk some Louisiana Tech, a team that you can make a pretty good argument for the fact that they probably moved the ball a bit better than Arizona State, and the Illini defense certainly doesn't want to relive that nightmare from the desert. We'll take a look at the Bulldogs.
Our O'Brien Auto Park of Urbana weekly preview features the team with the nation's 3rd longest winning streak and 3rd ranked scoring offense.
They're very fast.
They're a conference champ, and by many measures, they're better this year.
They've got a senior-laden football team.
A school by any other name, and there would probably be a ranking in front of it.
They're good, man. I mean, they really are.
Louisiana Tech comes to town off back-to-back 56-point efforts, one of those against a tough Houston squad on the road.
They're a very, very good offense. They've proven it in the first 2 football games they have, and their numbers say it all.
Their senior quarterback, Colby Cameron, has averaged more than 300 yards in their 2 games, and his 7-0 touchdown to interception ratio isn't half bad either. But for all their experience and leadership, it's 2 freshmen that have carried this offense. Devin King and Kenneth Dixon have combined for 519 rushing yards and 7 touchdowns in their first 2 collegiate games.
They run the ball real well, one of the best I've seen on film this year.
You know, obviously the 2 freshman backs haven't played much, but when they have played, those last 2 weeks they've been lights out.
The big challenge for the Illini defense, keeping up. Houston and La Tech combined for 208 plays in their game. That was an NCAA record. Because of that, this week in practice, the Illini decided to change the way they call their defensive plays from the sideline.
We actually told the coaches to stop trying to signal in the calls when they going that fast.
We got signals where one signal, gives you a whole call and all that. So, I think we're ready for it.
But there is another side to this coin. The La Tech defense couldn't stop a nosebleed against Houston or Rice. They're among the NCAA's worst in points allowed. The Illini have to prepare for a shootout.
We're definitely going to have to score one more point than them. So if they score 50, we got to score 51. So depending on how our defense does and how we prepare all week will determine how the game will be.
Well, breaking down Louisiana Tech a little bit, as we mentioned, defending conference champions, and I was covering the Western Athletic Conference last year, and Louisiana Tech was one of those kind of surprise teams that came on and won the conference championship. Now they're expected to win at a very good team, especially offensively, Steve.
They're kind of a team kind of like Fresno State was. They play anybody, anywhere, anytime. Right. Their schedule's pretty tough. They play Texas A&M a little bit later. They were supposed to play them earlier, so they're not afraid of anybody. They seem to like going on the road, and it'll be a tough test for them, but they bring a lot of skilled guys, Brian, to town. And
they do, and they have a lot of skill. They got two freshman tailbacks that have kind of emerged and just taken over, rushed for a couple hundred yards. Tevin King. He's fifth in the country, about 160 yards on the ground. It's interesting, though, when you look at the stats for Louisiana Tech, it's feast or famine. Now, some of this is always deceptive with a high-scoring shootout, but they're ranked third in the NCAA in scoring, but they're 120th, dead last, in defense. So it's one of those extreme situations statistically.
Normally I'd get nervous about a quarterback named Colby. That would just make me automatically go, oh my God, no chance to win. But this guy's good. Right. He's accurate. He throws the ball down the field, and that's what Sonny Dykes wants to do. And here's a guy that's been around. He knows college football very well. He's got that famous family, so he's done a really, really, really good job there in a difficult situation, because if you look at the WAC, it's blowing up. You don't really know what the WAC's going to be from week to week.
And I think that win over Houston was a big one for him. Houston, remember, a 13-1 team last year. If they beat Southern Miss, they'd probably go to a BCS bowl. So you can't take that win away from him. 56-49, so you said feast or famine. They're going to give up a lot. They're also going to score a lot.
Well, and they're used to winning. They've won 9 straight regular season games. Right. They lost to TCU in the Poinsettia Bowl out in San Diego at the end of the year.
And that was a close game.
That was a close game. And so they're used to winning. They're confident. They know they can move the football. They also have an excellent punter, a Ray Guy Award winner, Ryan Allen from last year, who's back. And trying to win it back-to-back years, that's never been done.
And they've got an outstanding field goal kicker who has not kicked a field goal yet this year, or even tried one.
Well, yeah, Coach Beckman was talking about it. I think we got some clarity on it. They've run 21 plays this year. They've scored 14 times, and all of those have been touchdowns, or 21 drive.
They're 14 for 14 in the red zone, all being touchdowns. That's pretty efficient, Bob.
Right.
If you want to get some insight into Louisiana Tech, call Ron Zook. He did the Houston game for CBS Sports. He'd probably have an idea. Look at their schedule. It's very front-loaded. Once they get into conference, they're going to cruise. But they've got Illinois, obviously, this week, Virginia next week. They got A&M in a couple weeks. This is a schedule that is built for them to have some early success, and they could be a 10-win team very easily. That doesn't mean they'll necessarily beat Illinois.
Now, the big talk this week has been about that tempo. 208 plays between them and Houston in their game, which was an NCAA record. It sounds like they might get off 100 plays against Illinois tonight. What do you expect to see? How do you expect that to affect the defense?
We might be still sitting there at midnight waiting for this one to get done the way it's going. We were told this week that defensive signals might be color-coded in on cards.
Yeah, simpler.
But whatever they do, they're going to have to do it fast because these guys, I don't know if you can be faster than Arizona State in getting the plays off, but if you can, these are the guys that might be.
Well, here's the thing, too, and I think I've heard it talked about their offense, the pace of it, the tempo. I think their longest drive this year scoring has been about 3.5 minutes, I think, is about how long it takes them to score. So their defense tends to be on the field a long time. Right. They seem to be vulnerable to the pass, and we'll see who goes at quarterback tonight. I imagine we'll see both. As the game goes on, but Riley certainly proved last week, Riley O'Toole, that he can be accurate. He might have a big day if he's in there at the top.
You know who wins with that tempo? The fans. Because fans don't like watching guys lay on the ground or huddle or whatever. But if you're going to the line and running a play in 10 seconds, how great is that for the fans? You know who loses? Defense. because they get no chance to rest. They're sitting there going, you know, please let me have a breath or two. So this is a very difficult style, but I think all teams in a perfect world would play this way.
And play-by-play guys have to work hard to keep up too.
Yeah, exactly. You have to memorize those numbers before the game.
It's like Showtime Lakers.
And speaking of the fans, let's hope they show up tonight. We've got all day to get ready for this. The weather's good, night game. A team that's getting some votes in the coaches poll. They're not there yet, Louisiana Tech. But it's a perfect night for college football.
And I think the one big thing that was important that I said we talk about it is Nate Shieldhouse. You mentioned it briefly, Brian. It sounded like he's pretty healthy. I think we'd expect to see him start tonight. What do you guys think?
I would agree.
All right. Well, thanks a lot for watching. Before we go, we do have to give away our 2 tickets as promised. Congratulations to Bill Willis from Monticello, wins those 2 tickets to tonight's game. He'll get those tickets. We're here to cheer in the background. We love the crowd, the lunch crowd here at Buffalo Wild Wings. We'll see you at tonight's game. Enjoy it. We'll have highlights on WAND at 10 o'clock. Go Illini versus Louisiana Tech. Thanks for watching Inside the Illini Big Ten College Football.
Inside the Illini Big Ten College Football is brought to you by your local Anheuser-Busch distributors. Ray Eldridge Jewelry, elegance without the attitude. Peoria and Decatur. Physician's Choice Wellness. Give your weight away today. And Buffalo Wild Wings. Mattoon, Champaign, Savoy.